Hi everyone, welcome to today's webinar. I'm Caitlin Smith, your webinar host from Main Street ROI. We're very excited to be presenting with our new webinar partner, WordLift, today. For today's webinar, I'd like to welcome Andrea Volpini, co-founder and CEO of WordLift. The presentation should run about 40 minutes or so that way we can leave plenty of time at the end for a live Q&A session. Feel free to type any questions you have in the Q&A box along the way, and we'll get back to them at the end of the webinar. As always, today's webinar will be recorded and we'll send out a replay video along with a PDF of the slides to everyone who has signed up. So if you get calls or are pulled away for work, don't worry, you're not going to miss a thing. With that, I'll turn the webinar over to Andrea so he can get started.
Hello, hi everyone. Happy to be with you today. And you're here because we are going to talk about structured data, semantic SEO, which are becoming very important pillars of modern SEO. So let's get started. My name is Andrea Volpini, and I started working on semantic web technology back in year 2000. And after several years in research, I came up with a product that helps publishers around the world structure information, make it available to Google, and improve rankings and user engagement. Our goal, of course, as most of the tool makers in this industry, is to grow the reach of a website and build a sustainable growth. And the graph that I'm showing here, it's actually coming out of a client that I met by chance in a conference, and it's from a blog on photography. And as soon as WordLift was installed, and this technology related to semantic web and structured data started to come into play, you could see a very interesting uplift in terms of rankings and traffic. And that's today we're really gonna dive into this concept and see how you can leverage on it. So our company, it's providing a semantic platform for SEO, and we are quite unique in combining knowledge graph and linked data technologies and natural language processing into an SEO tool that anyone can use. And we are a partner with WooRank, and we have a solution that works across WordPress with a plugin and also JavaScript library. I started with research work, and the company is thriving. So I'm really excited to continue this journey and share it with you. We work with, of course, the small blogger, but also with very large corporation. Currently, our tool is used by the Next Web, which is a top-notch tech publisher here in Europe. We also provide our technology, and we're running a very interesting session with the team at Airbnb. And we also work with a company from Amazon that is called Audible here in Germany, and with other institutions like Salzburgerland. This is more into the travel sector. So we have a wide range of clients from mid-sized company to very large organizations that are using our technology and benefit from it. But let's start with kind of going through the concept of structured data, and in this example I'm using the Google Assistant for asking a very simple question to my website. So I'm gonna go and say, WordLift, what is structured data? And I'm getting a response back, and I also have a quick video of these that we can share.
WordLift, what is structured data? According to WordLift, a relational database is an example of structured data. Tables are linked using unique IDs, and a query language like SQL is used to interact with the data. Structured data is the best way for computers to interact with information.
So it gets very important to understand the concept of structuring data and combine it with the unstructured data that we published, when we published our web content on our website, because the essence of semantic SEO is really making content machine friendly, making content accessible to computers, and helping computer understand the concept behind the content that we're publishing. And that's a crucial step that has become to be significantly important since 2012 in the world of Google, at least. With the advances of natural language understanding and the advances of machine learning and deep learning within the realm of search, we have seen an increasing need from platforms and search engine of structured data that can be used in many different ways. And today we're going to see a few examples of how this data can actually be used by Google and other search engines. At the foundation of it, in order to make a computer understand the content of our site, there is what is called, in technical terms, a linked vocabulary. So this is a piece of information that allows a computer to understand exactly what we're talking about. And this initiative has started in 2011 officially. It actually started earlier than that, and it's been developed by and for the search engine. So the search engine got together and decided that they wanted to agree on a way in which content was possible to communicate the meanings of content to machine. And it's very extensible. So Schema, it's based on a community that can create specific extension to model a knowledge domain. So there is an extension for modeling information about cars. There is an extension for modeling information about medical terms or e-commerce sites. And it's really kind of became the way in which linked data technology came to the surface of commercial search engines and became pivotal in these new AI-powered experiences that we live in. There is a balance in Schema between the complexity of a language that needs to describe everything in the world, and of course the simplicity that is required for making this language easy to use and easy to be understood. So it's a good balance, but it's a complex balance. Just to give you an example, there's no way today that you can tell in Schema about a cat or about a pet. There is still not an extension for modeling information about pets. So in a way, the language is limited. But at the same time, this limited language is evolving, and it's becoming more and more comprehensive because there is an open community behind, and you can join and participate through mailing list and GitHub and propose your own extension or your own use case. So I started this journey a long time ago, and as I was running my agency, we went to our biggest client and we say, hey, we have an amazing technology that is going to add Schema markup, and this is going to boost SEO. And of course, you know what? It didn't work. 2010, it was way too early to create an impact, measurable impact using semantic SEO. We got started at that point because we had the clear vision that this is was going to be the web, but at that time was very hard to kind of justify and calculate the return on the investment of semantic technology and structured data. Now, fast forward to 2019, the return of investment of these technologies and semantic web in general, it's super easy to prove. And Google is doing a tremendous effort in making this technology usable, understandable, and of course to create an actual value for the consumer. And it does this in a Google way. So with providing you with a lot of carrots through rich snippets and features in search that entice the user in interacting with the content on Google search. And these are some numbers that I gather from a travel brand working with us in Canada, straight from the Search Console. And you can see that we could measure in a relatively small period of time. So here, what we're talking about, it's a few months, an increase of 12% in the average ranking, and an increase of 22% plus on click-through rates from the SERP. So these are amazing numbers. If you think that, you know, behind these numbers, there is a business that runs on thousands and thousands of web pages. So this impact is really significant for the business behind. And if in 2010 it was, you know, nearly impossible to measure a benefit of you know, using structured data, in 2019 this is super easy. But more importantly, we start to see that in 2019, when we talk about structured data, we actually talk about open data. And semantic open data, it's becoming, you know, an essential block of modern SEO. This means that publishing data and making data available to third parties is really, you know, what can make a difference and create an impact in 2019. And this guy here, Chris Taggart, is the founder of Open Corporates, which is one of the most interesting open data initiatives. And he always say that, you know, open data needs to be taken seriously, much like we take seriously open source software. And now this is the time where open data is becoming, you know, part of the evolution of the web. And this is true for everyone, including Google. And here I'm just kind of bringing back a dialogue that happened a few days ago, when in France, Google started to respond to this new European online copyright law, also known as Google tax. Okay, so to make it very simple, the European Commission asked Google and the other platforms to share their profit with publisher in order to value the content that it's used on, for instance, a search snippet on Google. And Google here played really hardball and say, well, no, I'm not gonna share any profit about it. I'm just gonna give you the option to basically disappear from Google, or, you know, to reduce the result to the title and the link. No thumbnails, no rich results, no carousels, no nothing. You know, you only get a link and a title, unless you give me permission as a European publisher to use your content for creating, you know, rich results. And so I quickly engaged, because we had, of course, you know, a lot of clients here in Europe that are, you know, received this message from the Google Search Console saying, hey, as a European publisher, you can opt out, and therefore, if you opt out, then we can, you know, keep your rich snippets and feature snippet running. And of course, a lot of people just got crazy, and I received a lot of calls, and then I decided to engage with Danny Sullivan, and then Danny involved also John Moo for confirmation, and so end of the story really is that Google is providing publisher with more control over data that it's used for creating these rich features, and that's the way it works. And most importantly, you get control with the data that you publish. So whatever structured data you're publishing is the data that Google is going to use for the rich snippets, the feature snippet, the thumbnails, and so on and so forth. So for the first time, Google is saying, hey, structured data is what we use. And in a context where the legislation forces us to provide you with an option, we will use structured data, and we will consider structured data as open data as a means for us of creating a richer experience. So as long as you are using structured data, even if you don't opt out of the European publisher legislation, we will still, you know, preserve your rich results. And so for the first time, I was able to see the importance of structured data as open data in the context of Google. And that's I think it's pretty important because it allows you to understand, how important this thing is. But there's more than rich snippets. When we talk about making data available, we're talking about not only creating an impact with rich results, which is, by the way, now very easy to measure. There is a lot more that happen, when we start to use structured data. So let's get some examples. I don't know if you're familiar with the concept of synthetic queries, but I will explain it, and I'm just gonna show you an example of how this works. So a synthetic query is something that Google will create in order to provide you with better results by interpreting the query that you have provided as a user, and it will create a new query that will get more results, and then will combine the results from your query with the results coming from the synthetic query that Google creates. So Google creates queries, and when it believes that it can achieve better results than the results it would achieve by using the user query. So and the important bits here is that in this patent that was accepted and published in 2018, Google clearly states that structured data is one of the data points that it uses for creating these synthetic queries. So in a way, more data means that Google can understand your content, but it also means that practically that it will create a better query for some user queries. And I'm going to give you a specific example on a query such as CEO of WordLift. Google, as you can see here, it's not only combining the results from the query CEO of WordLift, but it's actually combining the results about Andrea Volpini. Okay, so it's taking some results as using the query string CEO of WordLift, and some results using a synthetic queries Andrea Volpini. But how does Google know that the CEO of WordLift is Andrea Volpini? And the way Google knows it is that it does it through its own knowledge graph. And what you see here, it's a knowledge graph panel. So you have a knowledge graph panel that it's an information that Google has taken into his own large database. And within this knowledge graph, Google is able to disambiguate a concept like CEO of WordLift as the person Andrea Volpini. And this is another neat thing that happened in the last few weeks. Really wasn't like this before. So this has changed in the last few weeks. Usually, when the description of the entity in the Google Knowledge Graph panel usually is rendered from Wikipedia. But as you can see in this example, it's coming out of my website. And that's pretty valuable for our brand. But the explanation of it is that behind this page, as a main entity of the page, as the concept that drives the information behind this page, there is actually an entity that presents myself. And an entity is a representation of data that Google and other machines can use in order to understand that this page is about Andrea Volpini, who is the CEO of WordLift. So let's dig deeper, and I'm going to show you here the entity Andrea Volpini inside Wikidata. Now, Wikidata is a graph public database curated by the Wikimedia Foundation that is used heavily by Google, the machine learning community as a whole, and Facebook and Bing as a data source. And so here you're seeing the entity for Andrea Volpini that has been created inside Wikidata, and you can see that the relationship inside this graph are telling the information that connects Andrea Volpini with the company WordLift using the attribute Chief Executive Officer as a role. And more interesting, you can see that there is actually a property over here which is called exact match that reference back the entity that we are publishing as triples using our tool. So when we publish the web page with the structured data, we are providing information that can be linked with other data. There is more. we have worked with the Wikidata community in order to change and improve the ontology of Wikidata to add a new property, which is called property 6363. And this is actually, it's called WordLift ID, and it's a property that allows us to link back our data with data in Wikidata. And guess what? Google and Bing and Facebook can get access to this data and to our data and improve their content recommendation system, their query augmentation mechanism, and so on and so forth. And the same structured data that can be used for helping Google disambiguate a query and create a synthetic query is also used for providing information about what part of the page we want, Google to speak aloud. So there is a specific area of schema that it will further develop in the coming months that allow us to connect the content that we publish on the web with the Google Assistant and the other personal digital assistant out there. And so Speakable Schema markup is one of these attributes that allows you to specify within a web page what is the part of the page that you want the assistant to speak aloud. And as we are, kind of moving into the presentation from the content findability and the impacts on the rich snippets into the world of voice search and the Google Assistant, here is what I would suggest you to do right away in order to tap into these new opportunities coming from the Google Assistant itself. And there's kind of a progression that you can make in order for bringing your content and make them, voice ready. So you can start with something as simple as applying AMP, accelerated mobile pages, to your website. And by doing that, and by using structured data in combination with AMP, you will be automatically featured for news content, for recipes, and content like podcast. And in a way, this is kind of a low-hanging fruit, because it only requires you to add structured data in combination with AMP. But when doing so, then Google creates now a directory of actions that are available for the Google Assistant, and you can go out and claim your own directory page for these actions. So let's assume that you are publishing recipe. If this recipe, becomes speakable, if they are served with AMP, and if of course if the site performs at a certain threshold, because you have to have, of course, a fast website in 2019, then you can get more visibility by claiming the directory page on the Google Action directory. And this is something that I would recommend to do. And then, of course, as a last step, you can start and move forward and develop your own custom action using the Google Action console. And this is, in a way, also the most advanced usage that you can make of the Google Assistant. And there is also links that you can add from your website back into the Assistant, because don't forget that when we're talking about voice, we're really talking about a cross-modal way of interacting with content. So I might start with a search intent on the Google Assistant, and then I might be driven on a mobile or on a personal digital assistant with a screen to the website, and then maybe back from the website I can activate the assistant back. So there is a lot of interaction that comes into place when you develop your own custom action. And there is something also that we are starting to beta test, that we should beta test with Google soon. We are proudly admitted as beta tester in this new program that Google is running for mini apps. Now, mini apps use the same infrastructure of custom action on the Google Assistant, but allow you to create a feature snippet within Google Search that can provide additional features. So it's like an application inside search, and we are among the few partners worldwide that are going to test these mini apps, and maybe we'll have dedicated webinars to that. But this is just kind of give you the idea that search is no longer about the 10 blue links but it's about, you know, rich interactivity on Google search and voice. And when we talk about interactivity, and we come back to the concept of structured data, we talk about, you know, the ambitious goal of not only describing the content, but telling to machine what can be done with this content. And so whether we have seen, you know, in the previous example, how by representing the entity for Andrea Volpini, you know, we are able to improve the findability of the content related to Andrea Volpini, there is actually, you know, more that can be done with an entity like a person or for instance, a hotel or for instance, a creative work like a book or a music album. So I can tell to machine that, for instance, I can book a room, you know, using Schema Action. So Schema Action is that part of the schema vocabulary, of the schema markup, that allow us to tell to computers what can be done and how, you know, we can activate specific functionality, such as, you know, the booking of a room. And we're starting to experiment these, and though there is not yet a large support of these part of the schema vocabulary, we believe that it's going to become very interesting in the next future. And we can see in this example that in any case, you know, the number of clicks and impressions that we're getting by providing, you know, this additional information are quite interesting. You know, we have in this case on a, you know, quite large website in the Netherlands, you know, an increase of 7.5% in terms of click, and there is an amazing increase in terms of impressions. A very basic example of Schema Action is when you tell the search engine about your internal search. So this is, you know, an action that we are now used to see on Google SERP. Basically, this action tells to the search engine that there is an internal search inside the website, and then, you know, Google in some cases will feature, you know, the search of your website within the first result, within the branded results. And so this is just one of the example of how we can start using, you know, the markup not only to present the things, but also to present the actions that can be triggered with these things, whether it's a room that I want to book, or it's a, you know, a search inside my website, or is a song that I want to listen to, and so on and so forth. So let's have a quick recap of the concept that we have looked at. We can use schema markup to opt in on rich functionality of Google search, and we can use structured data as open data. And this is very easily to be demonstrated in terms of, you know, bottom line and clicks by using the Search Console and the rich results filter that you have there. Google uses structured data not only for, you know, creating rich results, but also for improving the findability of content. And we've seen an example of a synthetic query where these come into play. We also see that as we transition from, you know, traditional search to semantic search and artificial intelligence in general, branding is becoming more and more important in SEO, because of course we want Google to connect with our audience, but we also want to kind of, you know, gain more and more visibility. And so first thing first, if you have a knowledge graph panel, if you have already created your knowledge graph panel, go out and claim it, because there is an option that allows you to claim your knowledge graph panel, which allows you to, you know, edit some basic information. And in order to gain a knowledge graph panel, it's super important that you use structured data and that you connect data with other data. You can also claim your directory page on the Google Assistant if you're using structured data in combination with A and B for specific schema type, such as news content and recipes. And you can start looking at Schema Action, which is, you know, this new area of the schema vocabulary, in order to improve the user engagement. And so we saw the example of the site links and the search box in the Google results, and also in order to create new entry points. So you can also, you know, tell to the search engine, hey, you know, if you're partner with Google, you can tell to the search engine, hey, this is, you know, the link to play this song on your, you know, Spotify player. And so moving a step forward, we've talked about the importance of structuring things with structured data, but what are semantic annotation and linked data? I mean, how can I benefit from these? Basically, we saw that there is a lot of SERP features today. So there is a lot of different ways in which Google presents information to the users. And I'm sure that you're familiar with this. We talked in this presentation a little bit about the site links and the search. We talked a little bit about AMP that has its own, personalized and specific SERP feature. We talked about the recipe and so on and so forth. And here I kind of, I try to count as many SERP features as I know. And there might be more. There might be something that I missed. But this is kind of quite a good representation of the features that are available today on Google. But most interesting here in this slide, I'm showing you how, what are the features that today you can control with structured data. So in blue, you see everything that you can control in terms of features from the structured data that you are providing in your web pages. And I put the audio icon for these features that are also available inside the Google Assistant. So like a recipe, we discussed it before, it's one of these content that you can control with structured data, and that it actually is also available in the Google Assistant. And of course, the same applies to things like a knowledge panel that we saw before, and of course, the news content, the top stories, and of course, most importantly for any retail business, the local packs. Machine learning and artificial intelligence are evolving in terms of technology stack, and this is very interesting because it's making things a lot simpler for marketers and users. And Cassie Kotsovit, who is a data scientist of the Google team, always says something that fascinates me a lot, which is data science should go at the speed of thought. And that means that we have to move data very quickly, and we have to start, looking at AI really as a kind of a tool that we can use, and probably, as things get simpler, it will become more interesting, to take advantage of it. And now, natural language processing is part of, the AI world. It's part of the technology that follow under the hat of artificial intelligence and machine learning. And in this example, I'm showing you a little bit about semantic annotation. So you can see in the example on the right that a sentence such as "this May don't miss the Floriani Fair, we have fun as usual in Unterberg," can be semantically annotated by using a process in NLP that is called entity extraction. So the same way that Google understands the query SEO of WordLift, we can annotate the content on our website and connect the content with entities that Google knows about. And this is exactly what we do when we annotate content using semantic annotation and structured data. And you can see that in a context in which, yesterday there was, or the other day there was this Merck slide about the decreasing opportunity on organic search by 9% year over year. So it's getting more and more complicated to rank organically. In this context, one of our clients has, succeeded in having, a growth of almost 70% year over year. And this is a very large site. So, I mean, it's this number also makes sense, when you kind of look at the scale. And we are completely outperforming all the competitors of similar travel site in Austria. And this is possible not only because we're using structured data, but we are starting to use also semantic annotation. And this is another example from Germany, where we can see that we have a first cluster of content that have been enriched semantically, so with annotation, and then there is another cluster of content that have not been enriched semantically. Both clusters feature pages that have structured data. So in both cases, we are using structured data, but on the first cluster, we are using structured data in combination with semantic annotation. And you can see that it's impressive, the difference in terms of engagement and clicks and even rankings. And the reason being that the more information we provide to the search engine about the content, the easier it gets to be featured, the easier it gets to be understood properly. So yes, we have to provide data for Google, and yes, this data for Google creates an impact and creates a value. But is data for Google only? Are we doing all of these? Are we embracing semantic technology and creating knowledge graphs for Google only? And of course, the answer is no. We're creating data for Google, but we're also creating a knowledge graph for ourselves, because as much as Google benefits from having its own knowledge graph, we as business owner, as content publisher, we can benefit from having our own, knowledge graph and data under control. And here you can see a visualization that we build out of the box with Google Data Studio that allows this client to see the traffic not by pages but by concept. So you can start looking at the traffic related to a specific topic, even if the topic maybe is represented across hundreds of pages. And this allows, of course, the editorial team to improve the editorial plan, but it also allows publisher to sell advertising in a more meaningful way, because I can slice my users and understand exactly the demographic about users that are interested in a specific topic. So in this example, this is from the Austrian website. Bauernherbst is a festival in autumn. And then you can see that I can easily see that when writing for Bauernherbst, we should focus on female and we should focus on food and dining as kind of a segment. So I can understand my content, and I can understand my audience, and I can improve the quality of the content that I produce by using a knowledge graph for interpreting my traffic data. And this is one of the examples. And there is a lot more. So really, I'm concluding and finishing this presentation with kind of a statement from Tim Berners-Lee, who invented the web, who invented the semantic web, and who has inspired deeply our journey starting in 2010 until today in making data available now. So as before, we were keen on looking at our business as online, as a kind of a distribution of content. Today we have to really look at the data and make the data the center of our product and services, because that's what the new web is about. And I hope that I inspired you enough. And of course, we do have created a dedicated discount for all the attendees of this webinar that you can easily reach with this URL. I think that the URL is wrong, so there is a little bit error here, but it's WordLift.io, Main Street RI, and we are done. And I'm ready and happy to take all your questions and to discuss everything that you want to discuss about semantic SEO. There's also some resources at the end of the presentation that you can look at, and here we are, ready for the Q&A.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much for that good information. That was really helpful. Okay, so one of our attendees couldn't hear towards the end. So just a reminder that we will be sending out a recording. I could actually hear the whole time, so hopefully the recording will have all of the audio, but that was just at the very end. And then Brad wanted to let you know that you had a fantastic presentation.
Thanks.
Yeah, the recording, one question for Brad also, the recording should be available in the next day. So we'll email that out along with the PDF of the slides as well.
All right, cool.
Okay, and Vlad, there was a question, but if you could be a little bit more specific. He said how WordLift can help with this, and so I'm not really sure what he's referring to.
Yeah, I mean, very simply, we do exactly what you've seen in this presentation, and we strive to use artificial intelligence to automate SEO. So the creation of a knowledge graph, it's part of our solution. The publishing of linked data, it's part of our solution. So basically, whatever you have seen, it's pretty much covered. The only thing that WordLift doesn't do at the moment is the custom action for the Google Assistant. For that we have customized solution, but it's not part of the package that we sell online.
Okay, and he did clarify a little bit more, said deploying entities inside the text content.
Yeah, right. So that's what WordLift does. Basically, this part over here, the name entity recognition and the name entity disambiguation, as well as the interlinking with knowledge graph that Google knows, such as Wikipedia and Wikidata, and also the good old Freebase is something that our NLP has been trained to do. Yes.
Perfect. And then Jeannie asked, will using WordLift align/conflict with my hard-coded schema?
Yeah, totally. I mean, there is, of course, as I say, that there is a lot of options in schema nowadays that can be personalized and fine-tuned. So yes, if you have already personalized schema on your site, we can plug in and improve it by adding, for instance, the semantic annotation.
Okay, awesome. It looks like that is all of our questions for now. I'll just give it another second in case any more come in. But just a reminder for all of Main Street's webinars, we'll actually be having another one a week from today. So if interested, you can sign up for those webinars from our website. One more question from Vlad. I suppose it requires hard coding inside HTML code. Does WordLift do this for WordPress, for example?
Yes, indeed. I mean, the whole point of WordLift is to kind of remove this complexity that I wanted to discuss today in order for you to understand. But our goal is that we take the heavy load from you, and if you run the plugin or if you install the JavaScript, the JSON LD, which is the format that Google prefers to get in terms of structured data, it's automatically created. So as an editor, as a publisher, as a business owner, you don't have to understand what structured data is. We will create it. It's actually not encoded within the web page. That's done with a different format, which is called microdata. Now, Google and Bing have transitioned to JSON LD, which is kind of a separate file. JSON LD stands for linked data, so it's a more versatile and richer format, and it is automatically created by WordLift. You don't need to understand the syntax of it or any specific details. You need to understand your content and what are the concepts that you care the most, and of course we will help you with analyzing the site and understanding how the tool can be configured at best.
Okay. Vlad said, seems great. Thanks a lot for your time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thanks.
One more question just came in too. What's the difference between the classic SEO, I mean keywords, meta titles, descriptions, etc., and the semantic SEO?
Yeah, that can take like another hour, but I'll try to be brief. I think that in 2012, Ray Kurzweil from Google started this terrific journey around semantic search. And part of this journey is that Google is able to properly understand the user query and to use natural language understanding. And this means that there is a lot more competition, because if before I would have different search results for each keyword, now if I am using, for instance, synonyms of the same concept, I will get very similar results, if not the same results. So the main difference in transitioning from keywords to semantic is that in the semantic world, the only thing that matters is the user intent. And the user intent is what Google is keen on understanding, and we have to understand it as well as content producer in order to create content that can really rank. One classic example is the difference between what is it, betting and gaming. And if you look at the SERP for these two keywords, using for instance a name of a place where you can play games or bet, you will get very similar results. Now, at the foundation of semantic SEO, as we've seen, there is the concept of entity. So here in this slide, Florianifer is an entity, May is an entity, Unterberg is an entity. So a keyword, it's not an entity. A keyword is a string. And so as Google said in the beginning of all of these, we are moving from strings to things. And so Unterberg, it's a place that has a specific location, and it's not a keyword. So that would be my answer.
Okay, awesome. Brad said, fascinated by schema actions. Will that be incorporated in WordLift soon?
Yeah, that's something that we definitely are evaluating. There is a lot of debates in the schema community, by the way, because Google has been very active in the beginning, and then it got less active. I'm a strong fan and sustainer of schema action, so we'll definitely do our best to support it. At the moment, in terms of real impact, you can see it in action with the site link in the search box. But we know also that the ontology that it's used within Alexa, it's also based on schema, and it's also based on schema actions. In terms of practical examples where you can see it, you only have the search box and the site links. But yes, we will do our best to support it, and also we are as part of this experiment with the Google Mini Apps, we definitely are keen on kind of understanding and supporting our clients in transitioning from traditional search experience into voice search and interactive search experiences.
Okay, thank you. Mohan asked, is there a tool/extension to inspect structured data entity?
We do have a link that points directly to the Google Structured Data Testing tool, which we believe it does its job. We are also providing, as part of the business package, WooRank, and with WooRank we have a criteria of the review that page by page tells you if there is something wrong in your structured data. So a combination between WordLift and WooRank, it's the package that we provide to our clients, to most of our clients at least, and so therefore we also provide our own validation tool. But from WordLift, we create a very simple link that takes you to the Google Structured Data Testing tool. And with WooRank, we can scan your entire site and see if there's something wrong with your structured data. One thing that I have to say is that nowadays, as structured data is so important, we are also considering to start creating more alerts and monitoring of it. The other day, a client had made a change on a web page, and then all the snippets were gone, and it was a lot of traffic. And so we are working on it to kind of bring up new solution for monitoring structured data and making sure that as you progress with your website, that everything remains valid and this traffic stays there. Yeah.
Thank you. And Nathan asked, can you explain again in detail how semantic annotations and linked data allow control of SERP features like the local 3-pack?
Yep. I mean, so first thing first is that when I have an organization, when I have so let me you still see my screen, right?
Yep.
So if I go out and make a query like this, you can see that I have good representation of the brand that comes out of course the local business. Google Local Business is something that you have to go out and start and invest, because it's actually the quickest entry point to some of the knowledge graph. And then you can see that so this is only available now here because of course I'm from the office, and actually that's our office, which is in downtown Rome, and so this is showing, but it's not going to show it to you when you make the same query. What you're going to see is the knowledge graph panel, and the knowledge graph panel, it's created by Google by looking at structured data. And so by publishing data about yourself, you allow search engine to create these entities within their knowledge graph, and we can see also very advanced representation in for instance in Bing, and here you can see that Andrea Volpini, there are two Andrea Volpini. So one is a very famous swimmer, definitely more interesting than me, and then there's me, and then you can see that the graph, it's picking up things about my parents and my daughters and so on and so forth, and this information, it comes from different sources. So it's sourced from Twitter, it's sourced from Freebase, but within the sites that I publish, where I have the entity Andrea Volpini, I'm going to reinforce this information, and I'm going to point the search engine in the right direction in terms of, hey, look, this Andrea Volpini is the same that you have, here as LinkedIn and here as Twitter. So by using the same as attributes of Schema, I'm, helping the search engine understand the entity about my organization and myself as a person. So really creating a representation for your business, it's crucial, and you have to start, of course, from the local pack, from the Google My Business, but then you can move forward, and of course, if you have the chance of creating your own page on Wikipedia, that would be another terrific entry point. But most importantly, we want to provide the search engine with the references of the data set that talks about us, and the more links we create, the better it is. It's kind of we're getting back to links, but these links are different because these links are based on the data that we publish as structured data.
Okay.
I don't know if I explained clearly.
Yeah. All right, I think that actually is all of the questions. So thank you all so much for joining today's webinar. Thank you so much, Andrea, for this awesome information. As a reminder, we will be sending out the replay video and then the PDF of the slides, so look out for that. You can also send any additional questions that you might come up with to support@mainstreetroi.com, and then we can shoot them over to you, Andrea, to get them answered.
That's terrific.
Perfect. Well, thank you again. Have a great rest of your day.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.